Welcome back to Hope at Dawn right here at Hope TV. Time for the newspaper review. My name is George Gishuru.
And my name is Beatrice Nude, and I'm just looking at some of the interesting stories that are being covered. Page 10 here. Yes. Normally I start with the top page, but this page 10 here where Ruto is saying Gachagua was an incompetent tribal leader who failed me. Aye. Wait. President criticizes former DP for promoting divisive politics, calls for unity. Head of State defends his leadership, urges support for inclusive government. That is quite interesting. William Ruto here saying we gave some people jobs, but they were incompetent, corrupt, and propagated divisive politics. Now we are united as a people, and Kenya will march forward. Wow. What can you say?
Yeah, we are united. We have one broad-based government.
Yeah.
Everyone has been included. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
For me, the only united
so
I know.
All the issues have been addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. From abduction to joblessness. Yeah. To higher education.
Yeah.
New funding model. Capitation to schools.
Yeah.
All those things have been addressed. So we are such one big happy family. Mimi nani nipinge.
The only united you know is Manchester.
United I know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just on page 10 and what is being reported. But anyway, let's come back to the top page and the top stories. Number one here, I see face off. Who's fooling whom? Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi skipped Tuesday's meeting with his handlers, saying he wasn't properly invited. However, Secretary to the Cabinet is having none of that, saying he absconded the session, an indication of deep cracks in Kenya Kwanza government. The irony, of saying that now we are united, but still there are deep cracks
within
that are being exposed within the Gachagua out of the picture.
Yes. And actually he was ousted, so I don't know why they keep discussing him everywhere.
Exactly.
I think he was the stumbling block, as they say. So yaliyopita si ndwele. Focus on now delivering to the people because the obstacle is out of the way now. Yeah, and that story on Muturi is also captured on the front page and extensive covered on page 7. Muturi's cabinet intrigues, fallout. Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi, who on Tuesday skipped a cabinet meeting chaired by President Ruto in Kakamega, has not been to his ministry office for the past 10 days amid reports he was no longer welcome at State House. But after he was reached by the nation yesterday, a defiant Muturi told the nation that he has been discharging his duties even without going to the office. He said there were no pending documents in his office that require his signature. I have been doing my work. Work is not about being in the office, but when I am also required physically, you will also see me there. No single work activity has stalled because I am not physically present in the office. So you can read that on page 7.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think there's just a lot of petty politics, if you ask me.
It's politics.
Because Justin Muturi ally here saying by being in the cabinet WhatsApp group, Muturi only received the general invitation message from Wanjau, but he did not receive a personalized brief on the cabinet for his docket, as has always happened in the past. Mercy Wanjau, the secretary to the cabinet, answering to this saying, I issued a general notice, which is the common practice to all cabinet secretaries. Through the general notice, the CSs have an access to the expectations at the cabinet forum. It is untrue to claim that I dispatched the invitation to some and left others. 2 messages CS says he normally gets during invitation to cabinet meetings, but he only got one on Tuesday. So you see, there's a lot of petty politics. that are happening in the government, also revealing the deep cracks that are in fact there. And moving on, I see still on the top page here, Ruto's big gamble on state corporations, the story that we did cover just I think yesterday as well. President William Ruto, in a move backed by the IMF, announced 42 parastatals are either going to be merged or dissolved to save government money, while government says no jobs will be lost. Civil servants are worried a lot. And this is a story covered extensively on page 5, 6, and also 7. Moving on, I see Gachagwa's political fate lies in judges' hands. And this is a story covered on page 11. And this is just in relation to what I kicked us off with. And I see XDP wants court to rule on legality of bench hearing case. Former DP argues that 3-judge bench was illegally constituted. His lawyer says the deputy CJ cannot conduct administrative duties for the CJ. And this is a story covered on page 11. You can look at it in more details. Still on the top page, I see schools fire workers as cash crunch bites. So I see the ripple effect of no Form 1 classes is deepening, with some support staff and teachers employed by boards being sacked. And this is a story covered on page 8. Moving on, I see EACC to probe graft claims against judges, a story covered on page 13. On the international news, I see Trump pardons drug dealer. This is a story covered on page 25, still on the international politics. And moving on, I see on the business page today, the story that has been covered and given much prominence is jitters as funding of health drops. And of course, moving down to the DN2, that is the pullout today on shipping. Okay, not the DN2 is for Daily Nation. The pullout, the shipping and logistics, is Kenyan farm eyes bigger market with more ships, and that's a story covered on the pullout today on the shipping and logistics. I see Red Sea not safe yet, shipping farms say. And going to the back page, I see worst ever, Man United turn to Europa as saving grace. So I see winning Europa League is a gateway for Red Devils to get back into Europe's elite show. Story covered on page 40. I see 7 is the position Man United are in the 36-team Europa League. Moving on, I see page 38, the race to succeed target at NOCK now gains momentum. NOCK's elections are slated for April during the General Assembly, and KTTA boss Mudibo will be eyeing the Secretary General post for the second time. And that's just it for the Standard.
Right. The Daily Nation, they have this story of femicide in the country. A 34-member task force has been formed to combat the rising cases across the country. And the headline reads, killed in 21 days. And we have 2, 4, 6, 8 faces of women who have been killed between January 1st and January 19. And in the first 3 weeks of the year alone, the nation can establish that at least 15 women have been murdered in a spiraling wave of brutal attacks, sometimes perpetrated by jilted lovers and spouses. Teenage girls have not been spared either, while a Kenyan banker working in London is also a victim. Who will act on these macabre killings? It's a story that you can read, terrible concerning story, on page 4 and 5. On page 7, I see here, probe 150 million shillings bonus Ruto gave cane farmers, Kalonzo charges, and Kalonzo accuses Ruto of insincerity on cane bombers. So he now wants, he has lashed out at President Ruto over the 150 million sugarcane bonus issued to farmers. Musyoka, speaking yesterday, said MPs should probe the source of the funds. Read that on page number 7. There's also this one. You have forsaken us. Isiolo residents cry out as wildfires devastate pastures. Residents say they have been trying to put out the fire for the past 7 days and hit out at the national and county governments for neglecting them. It's a story that you can read on page 8 inside the nation. KDF man's bullets killed mother of 3. Mombasa governor waives hospital bills as he calls for thorough investigations into the shooting incident. Man pulled out gun and shot it after altercation with boda rider over payment of fare. So you read that as well inside the Daily Nation. In other news, bursaries row. Mombasa residents sue Nyakango. Petitioners say if Controller of Budgets directive is effected, needy learners will be at a disadvantage, and the case will now be mentioned on the 19th of February for directions. And a new council takes over in plan to resuscitate crisis hit Moi University. That's a story on page number 10. From the counties, 5,000 families face eviction in affordable housing project plan. Many affected families say they were not consulted before the eviction notices were issued by the county. So this is in Uasin Gishu County, and at least 5,000 families residing in 5 estates in Eldoret City have been issued eviction notices to pave the way for Ruto's multi-billion shilling affordable housing project. I also see man's conviction quashed over magistrate's oath error in defilement case. You can read that as well on the county section. Man wants CRE curriculum scrapped for omitting polygamy as a form of marriage. That is a man in Kitale petitioning KICD, accusing it of violating the Constitution through its CRE syllabus offered in primary school. The DN2 pullout, it's the property. Are you a property manager? Security is no longer just about locks and guards. It's also about how well you integrate digital infrastructure into your strategy to keep your assets safe. That is the DN2 pullout. The business section. Kenya's meat output hits 305 billion shillings on high demand. Bulk of meat produced in the period was consumed locally. CMA orders Genghis to come up with 355 million debt-paying roadmap. That is on the business section on page number 24. When we go to the back page, supply of vital vaccines restored. Ministry says parents of newborns who had not received the vaccinations urged to take them for the jabs. Officials had blamed the stockout on global procurement delays. I also see House committees face shake-up as Wetangula leads fresh review. That is the performance of the new committees whose creation saw the total shoot from 28 to 44 will be under scrutiny in a retreat convened by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula. Going to the sports page. League's only female head coach rolling with punches. FKF Premier League, Juma with 4 wins under his belt, targeting a top 8 finish. Some doubt a female coach's capabilities, but players respect me, says Talanta boss Juma. That is 17 Football Kenya Federation Premier League games played, 4 won, 5 drawn and 8 lost, lying 15th on the 18 team table. This is the current season's record of FC Talanta coach Jacqueline Juma, who holds the distinction of being the first and only woman to be appointed head coach of a Kenya Premier League side. Read that story on page 35. And of course, tributes continue to pour for Bob Mundro, and the Bob Mundro I knew as a journalist. You can read those tributes on page 34. And how Omanyala turned track success into financial gains. Africa's fastest man emphasized the importance of financial planning for athletes. The 29-year-old is cruising in 4 luxurious cars worth 43 million shillings. Wow. You can read that story on page 33. All right, the Business Daily. Court awards against the state more than double to 44 billion shillings. PSC links lawsuits to poor governance and neglect. Administrative actions, land rouse, top litigation causes. Then Nairobi satellite towns post slow growth in land prices. Then KPC reprieve as court lifts bank account freeze. And efforts by the CBK to bring down interest rates in the economy are set to be tested by a 32% increase in government's net domestic borrowing in the coming fiscal year. I also see former Treasury debt chief back as a senior advisor to Ruto. Former Director General in charge of public debt management at the Treasury, Haron Sirima, has made a comeback to public service as a senior advisor of President Ruto just 4 months after his exit amid a fallout over credit sustainability concerns. That's a story on the front page and also on page 2 inside the Business Daily. And the thin line between debt and equity in redeemable shares, that's on the back page of the BD. And reluctance of major global lenders to adjust their policies has left many African nations in a precarious financial position. That's a quote attributed to Bitange Ndemo, and you can read that full article on page 9 inside the Business Daily.
Amazing. And we've come to the end of our newspaper review, but you can definitely tune in to Hope FM at the top of every hour. We have news updates right here on Hope TV. We have news as well at 7 p.m. We have Dira, 9 p.m. We have News Watch. So let's now pave way for the video of the day, but let's be reminded to pray for our nation.